Hi, I'm Master Chocolat. Driven by the beliefs that everyone has something special to offer, I created Not So Avg, the podcast that proves that you don't need to be in the top 1% to be truly extraordinary. Each episode spotlights everyday people from your community, the very individuals you might pass on the street. These relatable stories reveal that whether you're a jack of all trades or a niche specialist, we all have unique experiences and valuable lessons to share. Imagine if we all took a moment to realize we're all not so average. Let's get after it. Welcome to another episode of Not So Avg. Today's episode is going to be a sweet one, literally. I'm sitting down with a true icon in Calgary's business scene, a master craftsman, and someone whose legacy in chocolate spans generations, Bernard Callebaut. Born in Belgium into a family that's been in the chocolate game since 1911, Bernard brought his European tradition, precision, and passion to Calgary in the early 80s when high-quality chocolate wasn't easy to find in North America. His shop opened in 1983 and immediately drew lines out the door, even in minus 20 degrees Celsius weather. But this isn't just a story about chocolate. It's about risk, loss, reinvention, and doing what you love even after everything falls apart. Bernard built a thriving business, lost it, and still found the courage to start again, not once, but twice. Today, he's the heart behind Master Chocolat, focusing on organic, ethical, and handcrafted treats that reflect 4 decades of knowledge and grit. This one's going to be rich, so let's get after it. Welcome, Bernard.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you for taking me up on it. I took a course with my family and you about a month ago going through the process of making chocolate. Now, I wasn't skilled enough to do it from complete scratch, but you taught us how to make chocolate bars, chocolate lollipops, hot chocolate bombs. I think I walked out of there with about, 3 pounds of chocolate?
It's more than a pound, and you made also chocolates filled with caramels.
Yeah, those are the biggest hits.
You forgot the best one.
Oh yeah, those ones disappeared quick at my office because I had to make sure I couldn't have them at my house, or I would have ate them all to myself in at one sitting. So
the chocolate courses are very popular, and I do it because the people are a lot of people like to cook.
Yes.
And then you have people that want to know a little bit more what it is about. And I do it on purpose with pots and pans. No, I don't use my equipment. So then people can do it at home again. Because if I use my equipment, they're going to go home and they say, oh, look at that, I've made this and that. But they don't have my equipment. So it's kind of cheating. So I use simply stuff that you have in the kitchen at home. And that's the whole idea. So people can play with it and eventually make some fun stuff at home that is delicious.
The thing that blew my mind was how infinitely you could repurpose the chocolate. So you were talking about the temperatures, and then if you do it wrong, you can restart it all over again with the right cause. But I actually want to get into a point that really blew my mind at the very beginning of your chocolate course, and I'd love you to go on about it. What is the history of chocolate?
Well, the history of chocolate goes back, some people say thousands of years, but, it's all difficult to verify that. But what historically is known is that when Christopher Columbus crossed the ocean and he arrived in the Caribbean, he saw the natives taking a fruit from a tree, the size of an apple tree, and it looked like a football, the shape of a football, and the skin was like a melon, and the natives would cut it open, and inside you had about 30-40 seeds the size of an almond. They would roast it over a fire, add water and spices to it, and drink it. He tried it. He didn't like it at all. It was too bitter for him. So he didn't pay attention. His successor, Cortés, he brought it actually to the King of Spain. The King of Spain fell in love with this exotic beverage. We speak about the 1500s, they didn't know it existed. And that's how the balls really started rolling. At that time, the Spaniards were ruling the north of Belgium, the Flanders. They were there about for 100 years. And obviously, when you stay 100 years, you're going to transfer some knowledge.
Yep.
We give them beer, they give us chocolate. And the Italians learn it from the Spanish, the Swiss learn it from the Italians. And that's how it started. The first 300 years it was still consumed as a beverage. There are paintings from the 1700s where you see where they serve it in a nice, looks like a teapot type of thing with nice cups, etc. Was served in the English tea houses, etc. So it was very expensive. And it was only the very wealthy people that could afford it. And it's only in the mid-1800s when the industrialization kicked in that chocolate became known in its solid form as we know it today. And that's when the big names popped up: Cadbury's, Nestle. My family, we were brewers actually 1850. And then the second generation, my great-great-grandfather saw that chocolate craze coming up. He sent his 2 sons to Meunier in Paris, a company that still exists today, to learn the trade. And that's how we got into the chocolate business. And and chocolate is now a very, very big business. Companies like Mars, etc., they are enormous. And actually our former family business in Belgium, they are on the stock exchange. They do roughly 6 billion a year. So that's
incredible.
They are larger operations.
So your last name is on a stock exchange doing $6 billion in chocolate
sales.
Yeah,
they are on the Zurich and the New York Stock Exchange. The person that bought, so our company was originally bought in 1980 by a Swiss company, and then a Swiss person bought that Swiss company and took it public. And now, it's a very large operation. They have factories all over the world, but the family is completely out of it since more than 40 years.
Wild. For those who don't know the craft behind chocolate, what actually makes chocolate good or even great? And then can you actually explain what the roles of, say, cocoa butter, cocoa solids, sugar, milk powder, how does that play into all of that?
And that's what I teach in the courses. I tell people a little bit what are the ingredients. I spoke about the cocoa bean. The cocoa bean, so once you get it from the fruit, actually, if you have the opportunity to go to a plantation, you should do it. There's a lot of holiday destinations that have cocoa plantations, like Costa Rica, Dominican Republic, the big island, Hawaiian island. There was one in Maui, but it burned down, unfortunately, with Lahaina.
Unfortunately.
And Mexico, go and visit a cocoa plantation. A lot of them are open to the public. And when you try the seeds from the fruit, it's very bizarre. First of all, they don't look brown. They are white or pink, depending on the variety, and they are very bitter. So in the plantation, they do one step that is crucial for the future flavor of the cocoa, and that is they ferment them for about a week. And then they get their initial dark color, and they start already, there's some smell of cocoa in it. And then they dry it, and then they leave the plantation. Cocoa, by the way, is a commodity, so it is sold on the commodity market, so it can make some wild jumps up and down. And today we are definitely in a very upswing. I looked this morning; it was $9,600 a ton, and 2 years ago it was $2,500 a ton. So it can make wild swings. But in any case, so once it's fermented and dried, then it leaves the plantation, and then it goes basically 85% of the cocoa beans goes to North America and Europe, where they are processed. The Nestle's, the Hershey's, etc., that's what they get, the beans. And the first step they do is roast them. Just like coffee, it's an art to roast coffee. Mm-hmm. Cocoa is the same thing. Everybody has their secrets, how they roast it, what temperature, and how long, humidity, and all that gives a different result. And then they grind it, and then you have pure cocoa. Like you see in the grocery stores, a chocolate bar, 50%, 70% cocoa. But after the bean is ground, this is 100%. It's called cocoa liquor, cocoa mass, unsweetened chocolate. That's what it's called, and at the back of a chocolate label, it should say that. And that is, of course, very bitter. There's no sugar in it. No, most people are not too happy when they try it. They think chocolate, it looks brown, and then they try it and they say, that's disgusting. And obviously sugar is then the next ingredient, and that makes it much more edible. Mm-hmm. And so, for example, our dark chocolate has 30% sugar in our, what is actually low, because to give you an idea, a product like Chippets from Hershey that people are all familiar with to bake with, that product has 60% sugar.
That's probably why my mom likes it so much. It sits in the freezer, and she just grabs little handfuls from time to time and throws them back.
Well, it's very sweet, and that's why it's cheap too, because sugar is very cheap. It's the cheapest ingredient, has a long shelf life. It's kind of a food manufacturer's dream, right?
Yeah.
To use sugar. But again, in good quality chocolate, you need a lot of cocoa. And then the cocoa liquor, the unsweetened chocolate, has actually 2 ingredients in it. And it's a Dutchman in about 200 years ago. His name is Koenraad van Houten. He came up with the idea to take that unsweetened chocolate, put it under very high pressure, and he was able to split it in 2 ingredients. He was able to extract the oil, because chocolate is an oil-based product, just like nuts contain roughly 50% oil. A cocoa bean does that too, and the oil is actually cocoa butter. So what he found out is when he put it under very high pressure, is you have a dry ingredient, cocoa powder, that most people have at home to do the baking. And then the other ingredient is the cocoa butter. And the cocoa butter, when you buy cocoa butter and you put it on your skin, it melts on your skin, because cocoa butter melts roughly around 30 degrees.
Okay.
And it gives that nice sensation. And actually cocoa butter is the ingredient that makes the chocolate melt in your mouth. So a good quality chocolate in generally has a high cocoa content, and obviously then also has a high cocoa butter content. And a lot of the high-end chocolate has additional cocoa butter in it, because that was the importance of that Dutchman invention, is by able to take a bean and extract the butter and the dry ingredient, then he can take another batch, make it into a cocoa liquor like unsweetened chocolate, and then take some of the first batch, take some of cocoa butter and add more cocoa butter than there is actually naturally in the bean. And it accentuates the melting sensation. To give you an idea, in our dark chocolate, that is 70% cocoa, there is 50% unsweetened chocolate and 20% additional cocoa butter. So there's a very high fat content, it's 47%, and that makes the chocolate really melt in your mouth. For example, this morning I made little pancakes for my children, and I took the chocolates and I put them on the pancake. Just put it on, with the heat of the pancake, the chocolate will melt. With Chippets, when you do that, that won't happen, because the fat content is much lower. Like ours is 47, Chippets is 27. So you see the fat content is much lower, and that's why some people say like there is wax in that chocolate. No, there is not wax in that chocolate. There's simply the fat content is very low, so it melts very slowly, and it gives a chewiness sensation in your mouth.
Okay.
And that's also when you
The
make
sugar?
chocolate chip cookies, and you take the cookies out of the oven, the chips don't melt, they don't fall flat. They keep their shape, and that is because the fat content is low.
Interesting. So then there's a higher percentage of sugar, lower percentage of fat.
Very low.
Okay.
27 is very low.
Interesting.
And so a chocolate that has a very low fat content, when you eat it, it takes a very long time to melt in your mouth, and it gives a waxy sensation. You can basically chew on it. And also when you melt it, eventually it will melt if you do it over a double boiler. That type of chocolate, you can literally scoop it with a spoon. As our chocolate is very liquid.
Yeah.
It's very liquid.
Interesting. You grew up just outside your family's chocolate factory in Belgium. What are some of your earliest memories of being around chocolate?
Well, it was part of our life, basically because we are born literally.
Yeah.
We are all the kids were born at home. In that time, I can speak about the 50s. In Belgium, like the doctor would come to the house and deliver the baby at home. Like my mother, before she passed away, she told me that when she was having her contractions, like the doctor and my dad would sit on the bed and smoke a cigar while she was waiting to have the baby. I mean, this is things
Different
that are
times.
if you tell that to people, you think you're crazy, but that is like 70 years ago, right? And so our house was literally across from the street, like literally you had to cross the street, and there was there was the chocolate factory, and chocolate factories always have a smell, so the smell of chocolate was in our house all the time. It was our playground. We knew all the little corners in the place. We knew where all the rejects were. We knew where the hazelnuts were, etc., etc. It was literally our playground. It is like we have been brought up in that, and so it was that was part of our daily life.
That's amazing. That couldn't imagine a better playground, especially if you got a little bit of a sweet tooth and a little bit of a mischievous side. I'm sure you can have a good time.
Yeah, there was a drawback to that. Like when we cut the grass, and my dad said like, "Oh, you did a good job. Come to my office." So I would go to his office, and he gave us a chocolate bar. I said, "We know where they are." Like that, big disappointment.
That's pretty funny. Your great grandfather founded the Callebaut chocolate business in 1911. Was that correct?
Yeah, his name was Charles Louis Callebaut, and so his dad was Eugenius. He is the guy that started the brewery, and that was 1850. So Eugenius Callebaut, then his son Charles Louis Callebaut, and then Eugenius' grandson Richard Callebaut. They were all mayor of the village. Like they were for 80 years. They were 80 years in a row, mayor of the village.
I hope they liked him as mayor, because he was there forever.
Kind of funny. I tell you how it went in that time, because we were brewers too, and so people's social life was in the pub. Like the town was 2,500 people, and in the 1900s there was over 50 pubs in the town, and so people's social life was that. So my great grandfather and my great grandfather, they, when they went to collect votes, they would go to the pub and buy people beer. I mean,
couldn't imagine a simpler life. That's amazing.
Well, that's how it went. That's how it went.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that form of democracy. That's great. You shared this when you were doing your chocolate class with us, but you have an engineering and business school background. So what made you decide to go back to chocolate and essentially take an unpaid internship with René Gosens? How do I pronounce his name?
René Gosens, yeah. That is, I've always been in the chocolate, obviously, the house was there. But, I had always interest in cars and mechanic and stuff like that. So I studied for mechanical engineering. And but then afterwards I realized that, the chocolate business is actually a nice business, and so my interest came only later.
Okay.
And then I said, like, I like that idea, and then I said to my mother, I should go and do an apprenticeship, and I did that. I did my military service, because in Belgium at that time it was mandatory to do your military service, and then afterwards I went for an apprenticeship in Antwerp with René Gosens, who was one of our customers. Okay. And he was at that time he was one of the best chocolate makers in the country, and his son is still doing it now. And I did an apprenticeship in Belgium. It's in Europe. It's very common that you do an apprenticeship. That's an unpaid job. I don't know if it's still legal these days, but that's normal. You want to learn a job, you come and work and for free. And I embraced it with both arms, because it's you can ask better than to be taught by the best, right?
Yeah.
And so that was great. That was a fantastic experience. He was extremely helpful. He exchanged knowledge. That was not a problem. And then I said, like, you know what? That's what I'm going to do. And then I started looking where am I going to go. I didn't want to stay in Belgium. Like, the market is very oversaturated in Belgium. There's a huge amount of chocolate companies. And I was not planning to stay in any case. So I looked around. I planned originally to go to Germany, to the south of Germany, to the US, Canada. And I looked around and then traveled around. And then I said, well, I'm going to go to Canada, and visited all the main cities, did a couple of travels. And then I wanted to live close to the mountains in any case. And then at the end I decided to come here. I didn't do any market studies, etc. I was like, I like the mountains. And then I knew that there was, like, the oil and gas industry was around, and I said, like, coming from a country that has basically beer and Belgian fries as natural resources. I thought there is future in this, and you know, I did my application with the embassy in Brussels, Canadian embassy, and after 7-8 months, I got my papers, and there I went.
Life is a box of chocolates, right? That's what Forrest Gump said.
Yeah. But then it really starts afterwards.
Yeah, it really does, doesn't it? How has your personal philosophy around chocolate changed since you first set up a shop here in 1983?
You know, when I started, obviously I got influenced by my teacher. Like, you know, I started with a lot of the recipes that he had, you know, and, you know, that's a starting point. And then as you go, you know, as the business grows, that you have more time to experiment and come up with new ideas. And then you start to going your own way, and you start to create your own recipes, and you create your own identity.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you really want to be on the top of the game, and I think it's basically in any business, if you want to become very good, and then you have to experiment and educate yourself. That's a continuous process, and always work to find better ingredients, better suppliers. So then it's an ongoing process, and keep on raising the bar. And I think that is one of the things where real quality is passion. People use the word passion very easily. Like, you know, everybody slams the name, and I'm passionate what I do, etc. But passionate is really, it's basically an obsession to make things better than what you do. Research.
Is that how people would describe you? Very passionate?
Well,
maybe obsessed?
Well, I think so, but ultimately, I found that out one day. I read it one day, and someone said, passion is the obsession to always, obsession about your profession, and an obsession, if you are obsessed about something, you're always going to research and make it better, etc., etc. It's a non-stopping process.
Amazing.
Like, you can never say, that's it, I have the perfect chocolate. That doesn't exist. We can always make it better. You go to a trade show, you see something, oh, that's a new product, that's a new ingredient, I've never seen that, I've never tried it. And you keep going, and you start all over again. And that's normal. You know, it's the same as a chef in a kitchen. Like, they keep on experimenting. Some things don't work. They try new ingredients, and they read books, they study, they take courses. It's an ongoing process. Education is really, be willing to be teachable, I think, is key. You cannot say, like, I'm stuck in, you know, what I say, why do, that's it. No, you have to be open-minded and say, like, oh, you know what, I'm probably wrong in this. Like, I see it in the wrong way. The customer wants this, or they want that, and you have to listen to your customers.
Yeah.
Because you know, you're not the only one that comes up with ideas. Your customers come probably up with more ideas than you do. You know, you have to listen to them.
Of course.
And you know, and so you have trends too. Some trends are terrible, some trends are good. I think these days, you know, everybody has heard about the Dubai bars. It's a trend that came through TikTok, and you know, we saw that in 2024, and we said, well, let's try that. But then that's a seed, and then you come up, like, first of all, the product that trend broke, does it taste good? Is it really good, or is it really a bad idea? There's lots of bad ideas. But ultimately, the combination in that Dubai bar was, in my opinion, very good. You had the crunch, and you had the pistachio paste. And so we kept on experimenting and working on it, and some of my team came up with good ideas, and at the end, we came up with a product that actually is very good. And we have sold zillions of the Dubai bars, and we are still selling a lot of them.
That's great. So you identified a trend, and you followed it, and it's turned out to be profitable for you.
So, you know, you have to be open-minded. And some things don't work. Sometimes you try something, and you think that you know, no, you invented something extraordinary, and then nobody wants it.
Yeah.
That happens too.
Fair. The original business you built grew to over 30 stores before things, I guess we could say, collapsed.
Yes.
What was the hardest part of losing it, not just financially, but personally?
Personally, it's actually the personal side that is the toughest for the family, because your family, you have no income. You have 2 young kids. I had 2 young kids at that time. No, one. The second one came a little bit later, and so that's the biggest challenge. That is like you're responsible for the family, and then suddenly your whole world collapses. And that was very hard. That was very hard on the family and hard on me. But you have to move forward. You can sit there and cry the whole day, but that doesn't solve any problems. It's Winston Churchill said, like, keep going, keep going, like, don't stop. And that's ultimately what you have to do, and that's what I did. My wife helped a lot on that too. She right away, when in the court, that the thing, it was October 2010, I lost my business because I actually, with the court, there was a bidding process to buy my old company.
Okay.
I found an investor that was willing to put up the money to buy from the court, from the trustee, the business, and someone else outbid me. On a technicality, the judge gave the business to the other party, and so there in the court, like, suddenly.
Did you know the other party?
Yeah, he was a lawyer that used to work for me.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I knew the other party, and there you sit in the court, and there suddenly in one sentence, 27 years disappear, because I was in business for 27 years, and then you have to really pick up the pieces and get your courage together and say, like, okay, what am I going to do? My passion is making chocolate, so I'm very fortunate. That is, well, actually something that you're very fortunate. That is, if you're truly passionate, then it's something that you want to do.
Yeah.
Then work has a different dimension. It's not anymore, I have to go to work. No, it's like I'm still passionate, and I still had the passion and the drive, and that's kind of what helped me to come above. But there's a big but to that. That is that I have had a tremendous support of people. Some people that I even didn't know, people that I knew, that came and wished me all the best, supported me, came to the little shop. I had a tiny little sandwich bar that someone offered me to get going, way south, Bow Bottom Trail. And people would come there. And like the first Christmas, so that was October 2010, I lost it, my business. And we were open for business like in December, early December 2010.
And what was that facility?
Or what was that? An old sandwich bar that was closed by...
Sorry, what was the name of that business?
That business, we started as Papa Chocolat.
Okay.
We started as Papa Chocolat, and we sold $40,000 in that 1 month. Basically, with the telephone, no advertising, etc., because we didn't have any money. So I knew that there was music in that. And, we threw an opening party on 10th Avenue, that's a place that someone offered me, a band, Tim Tamashiro, that is still around. He played for at my wedding. He offered to come and sing to the band, so it was a big party. People offered wine, etc. So we launched that party, we got some publicity out of that, and that's how the ball started rolling. But the key thing is, it's the support of the people.
Yes.
And I think over the 27 years, I created a brand of quality. And people wanted to support that. Like they wanted to support, they said, like, Bernard make a very good product. We want to get him going again. We want that he creates good quality chocolates again. And because we giant product and simply help the family, the Callebaut family. And that's how the whole thing started going. So it is actually very uplifting when you go through some period that puts you through the ground.
Yeah.
And then you see how the generosity of some people is mind-boggling. I mean, I had people that called me and said like, and I didn't know them, and they said like, I went bankrupt myself. Here, I want to send you $100. People came and gave me a marble slab to make chocolates. Gave a table, this, that, gave a desk, all these things, and that was a very, very uplifting experience.
Sounds like a lot of community came together, and that's amazing.
Absolutely, and still now.
That's amazing.
There's still now.
So if you could go back in time, is there anything you would have done differently in how you managed or expanded the business, or even the final years of that?
Yes, obviously, when you go through things like that, you realize that certain things you didn't do it right.
And what would you think? What would you say those are?
One of the things I would be much more conservative how I run the business, like. Be more like save money and do it slower. For me, it's not important to grow the business fast, and so I would run the business in a more conservative way. I mean, I did some aggressive. There was a couple of aggressive steps, and that was kind of risk taking, and they turned bad. But ultimately, I'm the responsible person for that. I mean, the timing was bad in 2010 with the financial crisis. That didn't work because the bank at that time, they gave me 2 or 3 months to raise $2 million. It was $3 million that I had to raise to pay them out. And of course, at that time, it was very difficult to raise money because, everybody was tightening their belt. Mm-hmm. I got to 2 million, but I was 1 million short. So in any case, that's... So I would do it in a more conservative way. And there were some things in the business itself that the way it was structured. We were structured as a dealership. What was, all the stores were, most of the stores were privately owned. And, we should have more structured it as a franchise where you have a much more solid framework, a much more structure where basically the control comes from the head office.
Okay.
And you need it was too flexible. There was not it in a franchise structure. You have to have a very solid agreement and a very solid structure so that you as a head office you can control basically what they do and protect your brand. That's basically what it amounts to. You have to protect your brand, your quality. So all the things that they do, you have to have a very good control over that.
You might have already given a bit of an answer to this question, but most people wouldn't have recovered from something like this that you experienced in 2010. What helped you stay positive and eventually come back from this with a new vision?
Well, one portion of it I already said. It is like it's still having the passion. Mm-hmm. If you still have the passion, then going to work is much easier, and then you still have the drive because that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
And the other thing that is important is I realized when I went through all that when you have a quality brand, it's an amazing asset, and they can never take that away from you. Because you own it, because
you are the brand.
You're the person. They can take your name away, but they cannot take the reputation away. And that is invaluable.
I like that. So what did starting Master Chocolat feel like? Did it feel like redemption or a brand new beginning?
It was a brand new beginning. With Papa Chocolat, that was very difficult to do it. We were underfinanced.
Can you explain the story of Papa Chocolat? So for people that Google you and they see Bernard Callebaut, then they see Papa Chocolat, now Master Chocolat, maybe explain that.
Yeah, so Papa Chocolat, the idea came up that, people said like, my wife and some other people said like, you're the father of the chocolate business in Calgary, so they came up with the idea Papa Chocolat, and I liked it because it was a good idea, but then later on there was some legal implications with that, and then we had to abandon that. But at the same time, to run the business, it was very difficult. Financial issues. We didn't have any money. Lost my house, etc. So we had no backbone financially, and then had to find an investor. changed the name to Master Chocolat. The investor liked the idea of Master Chocolat. And then that investor had a little bit different opinions how to run the business. And then ultimately he wanted to stop being in the chocolate business. And then we found someone else. And so it was a very roller coaster start.
Sounds like it.
A very roller coaster. And then at the end, we have now the actual investors, and they are great people to work with. We do board meetings, and that's good because we get input from other people. It's always good to hear voices from outside, other opinions, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And so now the business is definitely growing. So it has been positive, but it has been a long journey. It's from 2010, and we are now in 2025.
Yeah.
So this is a marathon.
Yeah.
I didn't know I was good in a marathon.
Well, it seems like you are. Yeah. You've definitely been running this race for a while.
Yeah.
Over 4 decades overall.
It's so it's now I'm 42 years in the chocolate business. Yes.
Jeez. So I was doing some research, and there are people that are mentioned as master chocolatiers.
Yes.
Can you explain that a little bit? Because when people see Master Chocolat, they kind of make the correlation. Are you not? What is kind of that acknowledgement that people receive from being a master chocolatier?
A master chocolatier, so legally in Canada, that is not an official trade.
Okay.
Okay, in Europe it is. A lot of countries have that. You have a master plumber, you have a plaster that you or like a chef.
Master electrician.
Yeah, so in the kitchen you can do that. A chef like a Red Seal chef, etc. You can all do that. That for chocolate it doesn't exist. But then it's basically. It's being a master in your craft. That's really what it is. And yes, it's not a legal term, but the final product tells the story, right?
Yeah, definitely does.
Yeah, that's what.
If you can stay in business for 42 or 43 plus years, I think the proof is in the pudding for sure. Yeah.
Right.
Looking back, what moment are you most proud of? Not say the biggest headline, but the one that felt the most human to you.
If you say the most human, it's definitely the experience of the people that support you and that come and help you when you are really down.
Mm-hmm.
There's people that like you down,
of course.
Unfortunately.
Try and keep you down.
That is the reality. And I've met quite some people like that, and they go very far to obtain that. But I always look to the people that give you the positive side, because you listen to the people that have a positive message. You don't listen to the people that tell the negative story, and it's the people that say, Bernard, get going. You made a fantastic product, and we will support you. And it's the people that really came out of their shell and say, we want that you're successful again. And that support is phenomenal. That gives you a jolt, that's for sure.
It's nice to see who comes out to support you.
Absolutely.
For sure.
That in situations like that, who your friends and people that totally forget you.
Yeah.
That's reality. You read that all the time, but it's a natural filter to find out who your friends are.
Yeah. I can imagine why that's easy for you to recall on and just remember those people and those faces, the good, the bad, for sure.
But you look to the good people.
Of course, that seems to be the way. You've embraced things like organic, vegan, fair trade chocolate. How much has this industry changed, and what trends excite you the most right now?
First of all, it's a little bit by accident that I got into the organic.
Okay.
And it goes together with what I said earlier, that when you're passionate about something, you find better ingredients, better suppliers, etc. And by doing that, I used organic cream, I used organic butter, so you get more and more of these better ingredients, and more of them were organic. And then at the end we said we were basically like organic, like 80-90%, and then we said, okay, well then we can at least go the whole
final
way.
mile.
The fair trade, that's a different story, because earlier I mentioned that cocoa is a commodity.
Yeah.
And, I say like today, cocoa, like I will say, the date today, we are the 10th of June. And this morning it was trading at $9,600 a ton. The farmer doesn't get $9,600 a ton.
Certainly not.
They get roughly a third or a quarter of that. And to give you an idea, the largest producer in the world is the Ivory Coast. And the Ivory Coast produces 40% of the world production. That's done by 1 million farmers.
Jeez.
The average size of a farm is 4 acres, what is very, very small. And a farm of that size produces roughly 1 ton, 1,000 kilo. So remember the $9,600, 1/4, 1/3 goes to the farmer. That's their yearly income. So they really live close to the poverty line.
Yeah.
And so by doing fair trade, they get a premium above that. Now, I work with an Italian company that makes my chocolate customized, but they are the largest organic manufacturer in the world, and it's a family business, and they pay the farmers or the cooperatives directly. So they go beyond fair trade, so the farmers get more money, more than what they would get by fair trade. And also he's a doctor in agriculture, and he helps people to improve their production. And often he said he can achieve to double their production after 5 years. So now they start they make a decent living. So now they can make the ends meet. And I think it's a very important aspect that people don't know about it. They say like, oh my goodness, a chocolate bar costs that much. And but they don't know the whole chain, and they don't realize that there is millions of farmers that live off that. Mm-hmm. And they don't drive a Rolls Royce, I can tell you that. Yeah. They just make a living. And I think we should think a little bit more about that lets them have a little bit more money in their pocket. Yes, you're going to pay a little bit more for your chocolate, but you know what? You're going to make a lot of people happy.
Sounds like in comparison to the 1700s, that $10 chocolate bar sounds like a steal of a deal too. So we should be willing to pay a little more to support the farmers, right?
$10 a bar, that might be a little bit overboard, because ultimately you want to still sell a product that a lot of people can afford. Yeah, of course. There is a middle way, and so the fair trade that came because I was personally believing in that, and I was interested in that whole subject, and yeah, that's how it all came about. No, I forgot the second part of your question.
Oh, it was basically what trends excite you the most right now in the chocolate industry? There's
so many different things. It's one thing that I've always focused on. This is not a trend. It's like the way that I personally believe in is like I try to keep the labels simple. And there is definitely a trend, like lately, more and more like simple ingredient lists, and the true ingredient. It's like it's not sugar that should be the first ingredient. It should be cocoa, real fruit. Use real ingredients, and that should be the main thing. That's simplicity of the label, and use good quality ingredients. And I'm a still firm believer in it. And I don't think that's a trend. That's things that people will keep be interested in it, because I think they pay more and more attention to what they put in their body.
Of course. I was a big fan to see your ingredient list, because it is very, very small compared to what you pick up at the grocery store. All the ingredients that you can't pronounce because they're chemically enhanced and all that stuff done in a lab. So I appreciate what you've done with your brand for sure. What's something about running a chocolate business that people outside the industry would be surprised by? You gave some pointers or some points about the farmers, of course, but what are some other things that maybe some fun facts that you throw around at dinner parties?
Like in the production, it's very labor intensive. Like in artisanal, because ultimately we are an artisanal operation. In the chocolate world, you have the artisanal factories, and then you have the fully automated
Of
ones.
course.
They are different animals. But in the artisanal ones, it's very labor intensive. And you know, the key, one of the key things in that industry, it is the knowledge. Like we are a very knowledge-based business. And again, I might make the comparison between a chef in a kitchen. A chef in a kitchen, he has a knowledge. He has to have a tremendous knowledge about what he's doing, and then of course the choice of the ingredients.
Yeah.
If you take a top chef and you give him in a lousy kitchen, with a simple stove, he will still make a good dinner because he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
And our business is the same, and so people don't always realize what's behind it. Like that it's also a knowledge-based business. Like it's not taking some chocolate and put little pieces together. That's not really how it is. Like in high quality chocolate, there's a tremendous knowledge behind it.
You're a food chemist.
There is people that about chocolate, and I don't pretend that I know everything at all. There's professors that write books about it, etc. There's a tremendous knowledge behind the whole food industry in general. And then nutrition plays now a role more and more, and I think there is going to be a trend where certain products are going to be more nutritional based. Like I'm working now myself with my team to find a good protein bar, because a lot of the protein bars are cardboard. You know, like they might have a lot of protein, but they taste bad. And I think that's not the purpose, because people are not going to eat it if it doesn't taste good. It might have a lot of the ingredient that they are looking for, but if it doesn't taste good, that doesn't work. So, that's project like that keep me going.
Some Master protein bars coming out soon. I like that.
I've been working on that for a long time.
Holy smokes. Okay. Write me down for a box of those when they come available. Definitely a big fan. So we are starting to wind down here, but with 40 years in this industry, how has your definition of success changed?
That's when I started, when I was 29 years old, I said, when I'm 35, I have to have $1 million in the bank. That's not what I get me going. And ultimately, sure, do I want to make money? Yes, it's more like your value system changes when you go through something like where you go really down and you get to the bottom. It changes completely your value system. What is important before is not important now. And for me now, the main thing is make the business really a quality organization. And by quality organization, I mean it's not only that we're gonna make a quality product, it's also to have an organization where people can make a decent living, they are happy to come to work, they feel safe to come to work, and it's a whole. I always say a factory is not only a money producing entity, it's also basically a whole society together. It's the whole.
It's an ecosystem.
So and I think that's very important for me, that whole organization is something that, the day that I disappeared, that they say what, he at least built something that has a great value, not financially, but a great value on the human scale too.
Yeah, your community that you've built.
Community. That's what the word I was looking for. It's more, we are really a community.
What do you hope people feel when they taste your chocolate?
That they close their eyes and that they are in a different world. They forget all their worries. They just think about what they are just experiencing. And I think that's the key. That's for me. If they do that, if they can do that, then I say okay, then I did it right.
Simple. Final question. if you could sit down with the younger Bernard just off the plane in Calgary in 1982, about to take the leap, what would you say to him?
I would have waited, had more experience how to get going in the business. That would be part of it. And that in a nutshell, like have had more experience to get going before I opened my door. But ultimately, I got it going. It's like you jump off a building and then you learn how to fly. That's kind of what I did because I had no business experience.
Yeah?
Yes.
So what you built over 40 years has been exceptional. My family personally has enjoyed your chocolate ever since I was a kid. I distinctly remember actually going to your plant off of, I guess that would have been McLeod Trail. And
the original one was on 17th Avenue and 8th Street.
Yeah. But I remember going to Bernard, the one just across from, I guess, close to the Alpha House now.
Yes. Yeah,
and
correct.
I remember going underground and watching the tour. And I did this as a summer camp, and the excitement that came from doing that. And you gave us all these little cigars. Mine was blue. You had pink ones, stuff like that. And they were fantastic. And so chocolate has been a strong part of my family. And we've definitely enjoyed your stuff. I remember going also to the farmers markets, and I actually met you as a younger kid as well at the Calgary farmers markets. So thank you for being such a staple in Calgary. How can people find you and support you?
We have, of course, we are on the web, like masterchocolat.com, and we have 4 locations. We are in 2 farmers market, the one on Heritage Drive and Blackfoot.
Okay.
Then the new one across COP. Mm-hmm. And then we have a retail location, a full-blown retail location in Mardeloop, just when you get off Crowchild and turn to 33rd, just as a Petro-Canada station. We are just west of the Petro-Canada station. And then the factory that's open to the public, you can sit down, you can see the production, you can see me work, is on 69th Avenue, just off McLeod Trail. And we are open 7 days a week.
Fantastic. Well, I'll make sure to share all that information. For those that made it all the way to the end, once again, we thank you. We're going to continue to bring the stories that make Calgary, Calgary. And if you can share this, it goes a long way. But thank you so much. Let's get after it.
Well, it's not done yet.
It's not done?
No. I'm gonna, I know that there is still a lot to come, and it's. I'm looking forward to the future. I truly mean that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, great. Thank you so much for taking the time, Bernard.
Yeah, no, done with pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much.